Hello everyone, welcome to the GB Media, a hub dedicated to learning programming and web development. Now, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out as a beginner or already have some coding experience. Now, our channel is here to provide guidance and support. We encourage you to explore the essentials of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and dive into advanced topics such as responsive designs, APIs, and frameworks. Now, our tutorials, examples, and projects takes a hand-on approach to help you create impressive websites and web applications. I would encourage you to join our dynamic community, interact with fellow learners, follow us on our social media handles, our Facebook, our Instagram, our Twitter, and subscribe to our channels in order to get the latest updates from us. Alright guys, so let's get started. Now we're going to be starting from HTML at the very beginning because we're considering no prior knowledge to web development. Now for this course, I will be creating a GitHub repository because this will be like a series where we'll talk about HTML. From HTML, we'll move over to CSS and down to JavaScript. Now, like I said, I'll be creating a GitHub repository so that I will have all of the codes and everything pushed up in that repository just in case you would like to, go through the codes later on and learn some stuff. So, guys, let's start by looking at the definition of a website. A website is a collection of web pages and related content that is accessible through a unique domain name and hosted on a web server. It is typically viewed through a browser and can contain a variety of content such as text, images, videos, and interactive elements. Websites are used for different purposes, including providing information, conducting online businesses, sharing personal or professional portfolios, offering services, and facilitating communications and collaborations. They serve as a digital presence for individuals, organizations, business, and institutions, allowing them to reach a global audience and engage with users on the internet. Now, in learning web development, there are three basic languages you must know as a developer, which are HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet, and JavaScript. Now, it's important to know that HTML and CSS are not programming languages. Rather, HTML is a markup language and CSS is a styling language. JavaScript will definitely be our first programming language. It is a programming language for adding interactivity and functionality to our website. That is to say, after HTML has added the markup, CSS has done the styling, JavaScript will be there for interactivity and functionality. In some cases, more styling. Now, let me just show you a picture real quick of a building. So, imagine your website to be a house. Now, HTML will be when the building is just getting started. Now, this is what we get. Then CSS would be a complete building with paintings and everything, paintings, roofing, and everything. Now, JavaScript would be what we add interactivity to the building, things like maybe a lift, light, and sockets and everything. Now, if you look at this picture closely, you see, I think that is chimney. I can see smoke and lighting. Now, on another video, I think I'll talk about JavaScript very well. So, on this video, let's focus on HTML. So let's consider another scenario of our website to be a skeleton. So that would be the HTML. Then CSS is a boy with shirt, shoes, and shorts. Then JavaScript is what will give interactivity to that child. So if you look at this third picture or this third image, you see a boy playing. So I still have one more picture to go. So if you look at this picture, it also explains the same thing. HTML, the first part, then the second part is HTML plus CSS, and the third part is a guy dancing. So I think with these pictures, you already know what I'm trying to talk about. So HTML just gives the structure, CSS adds beauty and styling, while JavaScript adds interactivity and functionality. So let's get started by looking at our lecture guide. Now, this is not everything about HTML. Of course, there are other great resources to learn HTML, places like W3 Schools, Mozilla Developer Network, and some other places. Now, this will just serve as a lecture guide because I prepared this for the sake of this tutorial. Now, the reason I made this was for me to guide myself because I would really like to keep this as simple as possible. So, we'll start by looking at what is HTML, why HTML, useful tools needed to get started with HTML, HTML tag slash elements, then HTML block and inline element, HTML5 semantics, HTML attributes, then we'll look at some codes and projects. Before we get started, it's important to let you know that there are different versions of HTML. We have XHTML, HTML4, HTML5, but currently we're using HTML5, which has the doc type declarations. Before we get started, I would like to show you something real quick. What are the useful tools needed to get things started with HTML? In order to get started with HTML, I think we need just two basic things, which are a text editor and a web browser. For text editors, there are varieties of options to pick from. I have the VS Code, Sublime Text, Atom, and a lot of them. For browsers, I have the Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge, and a lot of them. So for my case, I think I would go with VS Code and Google Chrome. So let's get started by creating our starter file. What I would advise you guys to do is to create a folder on your desktop environment. You can name it anything you like, and take that folder to VS Code. Now, because I said I will make this as a GitHub repository so that the codes will be there for you to look up later on, I will head over to GitHub and I will create my repository. So this is me on GitHub. I would advise you guys to follow me on GitHub. Please and please follow me on GitHub. I will come to new. Then what would I call this repository? Let me just name it web dev. Then I can add a description to it. So let me just say something like this is a beginner web dev tutorial. So I can leave it as public or private, put out the readme file or everything. Now, please and please, I think I will do a video on GitHub later on. For now, I know most of you will be confused about this. So all I need to do is just to grab this code and head over to my VS Code. On my VS Code, I will open up a terminal. Then all I need to do is just to paste this code by writing a command git clone. So all I need to do is just to say git clone. Okay. First of all, let me cd to my desktop. Okay, now I'll say git clone and I'll add this link to it. And just press enter. So I've cloned this repository to my desktop environment, so it's now on my desktop. So all I need to do is to add it to my desktop. So I don't think my OBS will be able to capture this. So let me just add it to my desktop real quick. So let me add it to my VS Code real quick. So let's create our first HTML file on VS Code. Now let's click on this place, index. Now let me show you something. If I should say index without adding the .html file extension, and I come here, I decide to write HTML code. Let me say something like hello, h1 again. If I save this, right click, then copy path, head over to my browser and paste this guy. Now you notice that this is just a text file. It doesn't do much good. All I'm getting back is just the H1, everything back. It doesn't know how to pass it. That's the browser does not know how to pass this as regular HTML file would do. So if I go back to my VS Code and I rename this to be index.html, if I do something like this, index.html and hit enter, anytime I go back to my browser and reload this, now what will happen? You notice that this thing, okay, I need to put the .html file extension there because what I did was I copied path. Now, if you notice, you see the H1 coming out as HTML, so the browser knows how to understand this. Now, let's go back to VS Code and do some more stuff. Let's get started by looking at HTML5. Like I said earlier, the current version of HTML we're using is HTML5, and the trademark for it is the doc type declaration. And there are different ways to bring out the boilerplate for HTML5 on VS Code. I can do something like this by saying DOC. You can see that it's already giving me a suggestion. By the time I press tab, you can see everything is coming out. Or I could do something like type in HTML, then you can see different suggestions HTML, HTML5, HTML. So just to come down here and pick HTML5. Also, another way of doing this is by saying shift and 1. So this will give me something like this. When I press enter, you see this doc type HTML. So this is doc type declaration, the trademark of HTML5. On in HTML, there's something you should take note of. The base element or the mother element we have is this HTML tag. It includes every other thing. It consists of two major elements, which are the head and the body. Now, the head, it just contains information that are useful to us, but they are not seen on the browser. I think the only thing you see on the browser from the head is this title, which gives the title of the current document or the current page you're working on. How do I see this? If I save this and head over to my browser, this is what I will get. I will get something like by the time I reload, you can see this is the document right here showing. So let me go back to VS Code and edit that document. If I go over to VS Code, I can edit the document by doing something like this. Let me just come back here and do something like HTML class. So if I save this, head over to my browser, I would get something like this. By the time I reload, you can see it's showing HTML class. Now, the idea of going back, reloading, and the rest of them, I don't like that idea. So there's something I can do on VS Code. I could decide to make use of a live server. So that's under extension. So let me just show you guys real quick. If you head over to this place, you see extensions. So these are some of the extensions I've installed that makes working with VS Code easier for me. So I would advise you guys to install this live server. What it does is that it auto reloads the page whenever you save, so you don't have to refresh it manually. So let me go back to my document. So all I need to do is to see something like right click and open with live server. So if I do this, it's going to open up for me. And head over to my browser. This is what I will get. So this live server 127.0.0.1:5,000. So this is localhost /HTML. So let's go back to our VS Code and do some more stuff here. Now, like I said, we are going to be learning all about tags and elements. Now, what I would like you guys to understand is this: is that HTML is seen as a tree of elements. That is to say, it just consists of tags that are nested inside tags. So let me show you something from my pictures real quick. So my PowerPoint slide. So this is what we get. So these are the HTML is. Like I said, the HTML tag is root elements that includes two other tags, which are the head and the body. So inside the body, one of the, should I say, the most useful element there is the title, which shows the title of that page. So this is it. Then the body, it will contain every other content you see on the browser. So these are it is. If I scroll down, you see okay another image. So the document, the root element, which is HTML element, the head, which consists of the title and the body. So that's just how it is. So let's head over to VS Code. Now on VS Code, let's get started with learning the basic tags and elements. Now, tags and elements are used interchangeably. Most of the time, beginners often tend to get them confused for each other, but let me just point out the difference real quick. Now, if I have each one ordinary like this is a tag. Now, tags are enclosed in angle brackets. So, these are opening tag and this is the closing tag. Now, for element consists of the whole entity that is created by the tag and the content. So, if I have something like this H1 and I say hello world, so this is an element. So, if I should open this on my browser, of course, you know what I'm supposed to get. First, okay, because of the live server, the hello world is already there waiting for us. So let me go back to my VS Code. So that's just that. That's the difference between tag and element. So in learning HTML, we'll start with the basic tags such as the heading tag. So in HTML, we have six tags, six major heading tags. So if I say H1, H2, press tab, it will be auto completed. Then let me just do something like heading 2. Let me come back and change this one to heading 1. Then let me come back here, H3, the next heading, heading 3, then H4, heading 4, then H5, heading 5, and H6, heading 6. Now these are the six major header tags we have in HTML. Now these are arranged in order of decreasing order. That's to say each one is the biggest, followed by H2 and down to H6, which is the smallest. So if I go back to my browser, this is what I will get. I will get something like this. These are the six tags. Let's go back to VS Code and learn more tags. So guys, real quick before we go further, let me just talk about comments in HTML. Now, this is the way we write a comment in HTML. Left angle bracket exclamation and double dash. Now, because of VS Code and some extensions I've installed, I think it's helping me to do autocomplete. So our comment goes in here. Now, let me remove this guy. This is just a way of doing it. Another way of doing it is by saying control and forward slash, then write our comment. So what are comments basically? Comments are used to show description and explanation of our code. Sometimes you may write a code down, you would like to look at it in a later time or sometime in the future. So, with the help of comment, I think it will be easier for you to remember what was actually on your mind when you were writing that code. So, in the case of this tutorial, what I'll be using comment for, I'll be using comment to write out the subtopic or the current part I'm teaching. So, let me just do something like this: Control forward slash and see heading tags. So that's what that. So let me go over to the next topic. So next topic, I'll write it in the comment also. So this would be our paragraph. Now what are paragraph tag? Paragraph tag are just like a tag for showing a block of text. So I can do something like this. Hello, I am a paragraph. So if I save this, then go over to my browser, this is what I will get on my browser. So by the time I reload, I can do something like this, hello, I'm a paragraph. So that's for that. Then if I go over to VS Code again, this is not the only thing. So paragraph would hold a large amount of text. So I can do something like lorem. So let me just talk about this real quick. Now, lorem ipsum or lorem is a fake text generator. Now, most of the time when you are learning web development, it just deals with you writing out content on the browser, and in most cases you may run out of content to write. So lorem ipsum is there to help us get fake text. So I can do something like lorem and press enter. So by the time I save, I will get this amount of fake text on my screen. So if I go back to my VS Code and reload, you can see that this thing is already showing. So with lorem, you can control the amount of text you need. Let me say, for instance, I need 500. Okay, let me say 300. Or I can say P, and I'll say lorem 200. Then press tab or enter. So by the time I say go back to my browser, this is what I will get on my browser. So take note, that's what lorem is used for. I think I'm going to remove the other ones. I don't need them. So I'll just go with the first one. So uh sorry. So let me come back and remove this other paragraph. I don't need them. So okay, this one is enough. So that's a paragraph. Then another thing we'll talk about is the div. Let me do something like divs. Now, what are div used for? They are just used to show division of text. Now, it is similar to the paragraph, but in most cases, what you would want to do is that you would like to use a paragraph to hold text content only, then a div to hold other things, maybe paragraph, images, links, and everything in a div. So that's just one of the major difference. So that's how I like using it. So I can do something like div again, then I will say lorem again. So if I save and go back to my browser, of course, you know what I'm supposed to get. So here are my browser, this is what I'm getting. This is for the div. So if I go back to my VS Code, I can also do something like this. Like I said, I can use it to hold multiple elements. So I can do something like paragraph. I will say lorem, then I'll save, and I will add other stuff. Things like image, then I'll specify the part of the image and every other thing. So, or and I can also add the link. Let me do something like anchor tag, then let me do something like your link, then save. So by the time I go back to my browser, this is what I will get. So we'll go back to that again. So let's talk about block and inline elements. What are the difference between block and inline elements? The block level element is an element that take up the full width of the browser, and they tend to form their own paragraph. And an inline element is an element which does not take up the full width of the browser, and it just take up the width of its content. Let's look at examples. Now, for block level elements, examples are paragraphs, divs, and all HTML5 semantic tag. We'll get to that shortly. And for inline elements, we have things like anchor tag, images, and some other stuff. So let's head over to our VS Code and let's look at these things real quick. Now on VS Code, I will do something like this. Okay, so in order to teach the inline elements, I will just continue from this part. So I can do something like this. If I get to this place, I can say strong. Now if I take this and put this here, let me do this real quick, and I save. Now let's go to the browser and see the effect of this. If I will get, you can see this text is now kind of bold, strong text. Prior to HTML5, I think what they use is bold, but from HTML5, we've been using strong tag. Let's go back and let's see more examples. If I go back to my VS Code, the other tags, I can do something like this. Let me say EM. to lay emphasis or italics. So if I cut this guy and put it right here and see if by the time I go back to my browser, this is what I will get. I will get something like this. So look at that text. So this is it. So there's also another one, I think, underline. Let's go back to VS Code and let's see it quickly. So if I come back to this place, okay. So let me just target this last one. I can do something like you. Then take this guy, call it put it here. By the time I save and go back to my browser, this is what I will get. Now look at that text. So these are examples of inline elements. Also, an anchor tag is an inline element. Now, what are anchor tags? So let me go back to my VS Code. Now, if I want to link my website or other pages to my website or pages between my websites, the anchor tag is definitely what I would use. Now, I know most of you guys are surprised. It's supposed to be linked, but link in HTML is a tag that is used to connect our HTML to CSS. So we'll get to that shortly when we get to CSS. So if I want to do something like um, navigating between pages, going from my website to another website, what I will use is an anchor tag. So let's look at the anchor tag real quick. So if I say something like anchor and I press enter, now you can see that it's coming with this href attribute. So we'll get to attribute shortly. If I do something like click me and I save this, by the time I go back to my browser, this is what I will get. So this is the link. Now, if you look at the previous one we wrote, that link is not a block level element. It is there because I'm putting it just after a block level element. So that block level element is taking up that full width. That's why that one is coming down. If I should go back to my VS Code and continue typing, let me do something like lorem, I'll press enter. If I save this and I go back to my browser, this is what you guys will notice. You notice that the text is just on the same line with the anchor tag. So that's to tell you that anchor tag and inline tag, they are not block level elements. So if I go back to VS Code, I don't think I need this guy. So let me just remove it real quick. So now for an anchor tag, there's something you should notice. If you look at this place, what's making this in a link? The href attribute is what's specific, is what's making this guy a link. So if I should remove the href attribute and save this guy, if I go back to my browser, this will be seen as just an ordinary text. You can see now there's no, you look at the default style. I think that's I forgot what it's called. So if you look at this one, this is still a link because of that href attribute. That's why you can see the cursor of pointer. So now let me just go back to VS Code real quick and add the href attribute. So if I should add the href attribute and specify, in fact, let me say I do something like https colon slash slash www.google.com. Now, what the href is doing is that is telling me where I want to open this link or the website I want to link to or the page I want to link to. Now, if I save this and go back to my browser, this is what I will get. By the time I hover through stuff, you see something on the bottom left, www.google.com. So that's to say that's the link I want to open. So if I click on it, you can see that it has loaded Google page for me. It has loaded Google website. So, but there's something you should notice. If you look at it closely, you notice that this thing is opening on the same window. In other words, we've left our website. So this is not a good experience. So let me go back again. Now, what you would want to do is that whenever you are specifying or whenever you are doing this anchor tag, so there's also another attribute you can add, which is the target attribute, which tells where you want to open this link. So I can do something like underscore blank. So by the time I save and head over to my browser, when I click on this stuff, you notice that it's opening another window for us. Now let me go back and explain something real quick. Now, if you are navigating within the pages of your website, it is always good not to specify a target attribute because by default, the target attribute is safe. That is to say, to open on that same window. But if you are navigating to other websites from a website, it's always good to set the target attribute to underscore blank. So in that case, the users they will still have another window open and your website will still be there. They won't get lost or anything. So let's go back to our VS Code and do some stuff. So that's for that about link. So I have different targets, self and blank. Those are the important ones for now. Self opens the link on the same window, then blank opens it on another window. So let's look at our next tag. I think next on my list would be the UL and OL. So these are called list tag. Now let me explain this real quick. Now in HTML we have two types of list. We have the ordered and the unordered list. So let's start with the unordered list. Now what is the unordered list? So if I want to write an unordered list, what I will use the UL tag. Then inside it I will have a bunch of LIs. So let me do something like hello. Oh, no, let me do something like my favorite nights of Camelot. So I can put a heading here. I'll say my favorite night of Camelot. So by the time I see on the first one, I can do something like IRTHR. Of course, the king will be there. Then I'll see LI Lancelot, my best guy. Then I can do something like LI. I can say Gwen. So let me not bore you guys with a lot of boring stuff. Now, if I head over to my browser, this is what I will get. I'm getting these guys. Now, for the ULs are created using bulletin. That is to say, they have bulletins. So that's why it's called another list. For let me go back to my VS Code again. Now, if you notice something, these LIs they are the only elements with the bulletins. The H3, though, is within the UL, but doesn't have the bulletin. That's because these are the lists. And the reason I'm putting that H3 there is because I want the padding to be there. So if I head over to my VS Code, I can do something. So let me do something like OL, which is the ordered list. So I can do something like, okay, let me just copy these guys again and paste them here. By the time I save and head over to my browser, this is what I will get. So you can see the other one, OL, ordered list, which bring out numbering. Now, let me just say this real quick. HTML does not really determine everything. With the help of CSS, I can decide to change this OL to UL, change UL to OL. You get. Let me just point out something real quick. Now in HTML, there's nothing like tab or enter to go to the next line. If you want to go to the next line in HTML, what you do is to use a special tag called the line break tag or BR tag. Now, let me show you something real quick. I went over to the paragraph section, then I will demo this real quick. So if I say something like BR and I save, by the time I go back to my browser, you notice that these texts are now coming down. So look at it. So the BR tag is what brings the text to the next line. And there's something you can also do again. There's also another tag. Let me show you real quick. If I head over to my VS Code, there's also another tag called the HR. So if I do something like this, HR and press enter. Now these tags are self-closing tag. I can do something like this or I can leave it like this. It will still work. So if I go back to my browser, this is what I will get. Look at the HR tag. It just brings out this horizontal row, which makes it nice and neat in a way. So let me head over to my VS Code. So the next thing I want to point out again is that for links on our website, what are links used for? Now, in most cases, lists are just used to list out content on the web page. So that's one of the basic use. Then again, it can also be used to create links on our web pages. So we see that when we get to CSS and when we start creating projects using HTML and CSS. So the next tag we'll talk about is the button tag. Now let me write this out, the button tag. Now what does the button tag do? So if I say button and I press enter, I can do something like click me. Now button is also another inline element. By the time I save this and go over to my browser, this is what I will get. I will get something like this. So this is the button saying click me. Now, this doesn't do anything yet. If I click on it, it doesn't do anything. It's just an ordinary button. Now, buttons find applications when JavaScript is added to it. Like if I hook this up to a function in JavaScript, then it can be used to do something. So we will look at that when we get to JavaScript. So let me head over to VS Code. There's something I would like to do. I don't like the fact that my I will have to scroll down to get to the last part of the page. So there's something I can do to avoid that. So let me just do this real quick. I can add a div. Then I'll add a style to it. I'll set the padding or margin, any one of my choice. I'll set the padding to let me say 200 pixel and save. So by the time I go back to my VS Code, this is what I will get. So I just like when there's space so that I won't get to the end of the page easily. So let me go back to my VS Code and let's continue. So on VS Code, our next tag would be the table tag. So okay, let me talk about the image before table. So let me talk about the image tag. Our next tag will be the image tag. So how do we add images to our web page? So if I want to add an image, all I need to do is to go back to my computer and look for any image, just bring it to this part or this directory. So what I'll do is that I'll go back to my own system and look for an image. So I would advise you to do same. So guys, I've added an image to my directory. So all I need to do is just use the img tag. So by the time I press enter, you can see that it is coming out with two attributes, which are the source and the alt attribute. So under the source attribute, what I will do is that this is where I will put the source or the part where the image is coming from. So since we're on the same directory, I can just do something like social.png and save. So by the time I go back to my browser, this is what I will get. I will get the image. So, like I said before, image is an inline tag. Then buttons are also inline tags. So that's why they are placed side by side. So if I go back to VS Code, a better way to solve this is by do something like the B arrow tag, so that one will go to the next line. So if I come back to my browser, this is what I will get. The image is now on another line, so I can decide to add another B arrow tag so that it will be separated from it completely. But I will leave that for now. Now, I've been talking about attributes. Let me go back to VS Code. I've been talking about attributes. Like when we did the link, we talked about attributes. When we also did the image, we talked about attributes. Then I also did something when I was doing this deep. This is also an attribute. Now, let me show you something uh, from my PowerPoint slides. So, guys, real quick, let's talk about attributes. What are attributes? Attributes give special function and meaning or information to our web page. Now, in HTML, there are some attributes that are compulsory, like without them, the HTML tag doesn't make any sense. And there are some that are optional. That's why I did something like mandatory and non mandatory attribute. Now, it is important to know that attribute comes in key value pairs. So, if I head over to my VS Code, now on VS Code, if you remember, real quick, remember when we did the anchor tag, when we didn't specify the href attribute, if you notice, the anchor tag will just come in as like an ordinary paragraph or an ordinary text. But with the help of the href attribute, it became an anchor tag, so we're able to get the part we want to link to and all of that. But if you notice, the target attribute was kind of optional. Why? Because when we didn't have the target attribute, our link was also working. But in that case, it was just opening on the same window. So the added functionality was that we were able to use the target attribute to tell the browser to open this link on another window and so you can see that attribute add special meaning and information to our web page. Like I said, attribute comes in key value pair. So this is what I mean by key value pair. href equal to https/logo. So this is the key, this is the value. For this is the key, this is the value. So let me come down again. So for my image, you notice that the source attribute is very, very key. Like without the source attribute, if I save this, I won't get any image. So this is what I will get. The image will not be there. So the source attribute is kind of compulsory. So if I head over to VS Code again, this is what you notice. So let me do Ctrl Z so that the source attribute will come out. Now, what is this alt attribute or what is it used for? Alt is an alternative text that will show. So let me just point this out code. On VS Code, if you hover past something, it will bring out this nice solution for you. So on your spare time, you can look at it. So the alt attribute, what it does is that it's an alternative text that will show in case my image does not show up. So let me just do something like image of social media. So if I save this and go back to my browser, of course, you notice that there's nothing on the browser yet. Like you will notice the function of that attribute. But if I head over to VS Code, let's say for some reason I'm a screen reader or I made a mistake while bringing out this link. Let me just say I did something like PNGs and save. By the time I go back to my browser, this is what I will get. I'll get this guy, so you can see that I'm having something like image of social media. That's to see the alt is an alternative text that's supposed to show if for any reason my image was not able to load. So if I come back to my VS Code, I remove this guy and save. So let me just show you some pictures from my PowerPoint slides. Remember, pictures are great ways of learning. So let me just show you this real quick. Now, if you look at this, I'm having an image of a tag with attributes. So let me show you something real quick. So look at this part. It say attribute names and values are separated using the equal sign. So that's one thing you should take note of. So for the image, I have the source which comes with equal to bed.jpg. That's to say the name of the image or the path. Then I have the auth, like I said, an alternative text that would show in case it doesn't show. Now they say multiple attributes are separated by a space. So let me come down to my next picture. So look at it. For anchor, I have the href which puts the URL and the text to show. So that's for that about attributes. And later on, we'll look at our custom attribute, things like the style attribute, which is already shown here. Let me go over to VS Code. The style attribute is already shown here. So if you look at this, my VS Code file, you see something like style. Style is a special attribute that comes in style equal to property column value. But take note, this is also following the attribute syntax, which is the property, sorry, which is the key value pair. So, but this one comes in a special way of style equal to property column value. So, later on, we'll talk about the IDs, classes, and all of that when we start getting into CSS. So for now, let's look at our next tag. Now on our list, I think my next tag will be the table tag. So we're almost getting to the end of this tutorial. Like I said, this is just a beginner course. After watching this video, I would advise you to search for materials, go to W2 schools. There are more to HTML tag, but I just can't do everything on one video. So all I just needed to do was to teach you the basic for to enable you get started with HTML. So now let's talk about the table. So table comes in the table tag. Let me say table. So this is another block level element. Now after writing my table tag, there are things I can do. I can do something like t head, so we specify the head of the table. Then I can do something like t body. So these are tags within the table tag. Now for the TA, there's something you should take note of. So how table works is this: it works in rows and columns. So if I want to get to row, I can say T arrow. So that will be my first row. Then the individual text will be my column. So those will be in T head. Since this is the head of the table, so I can do something like TH. Now I can do something like SN for serial number. And let me say TH again. Now I'll do something like name. Then I'll do something like th, and I'll do something like email. Now if I save this and go back to my browser, let me see, this one I will get. So you can see I'm getting SN name and email. So let me go back to VS Code and complete this. Now on VS Code, all I need to do for this T body, all I need to do is to do something like T arrow again, which to say my first row. I need three data, so I will say TD for table data. Now for the serial number, this could be serial number one. Then I will say something like TD again. I will say the name is Ajo. God bless. Then the TD for email, I can say ejo at gmail.com, and I'll save this. So let me add two more quickly. So I can do something like TRO, and I'll say TD for serial number two. Then I'll do something like TD again. I will say Lancelot, not Tembria. I can't spell this. Let me just say Lancelot. Then I will say TD again. Then I'll say Lance at gmail.com. Then let me do the last guy. Let me say TR. Then I'll say TD. I'll say Tiri for serial number. Then TD again. I'll do something like Freeman. Then TD. I'll say Freeman at yahoo.com. So if I save this and head over to my browser, this is what you notice. So by the time so you can see that this is coming out as a table. Now tables are nice ways to arrange stuff on our website. Now if you look at this, I'm having serial number, names, and this. Now for the table head, you notice that they are bold by default. So that's the default style it's coming with them. For the table data and the rest, they are not good. So there's something I can do to my table. I could add stylings, but let me show you this real quick. I can do something like this inside the table. There's an attribute I can say border and save. So if I save this and head over to my browser, this is what you notice. I'm getting something like this. So you're just adding this nice border around everything. So if I head over to VS Code again, so I could decide to give values to this border. I think this specifies the width of the border. So by default, I think it's one. So if I do something like three and I go over to my browser, this is what you notice. If you look at the outer width of the border, it's kind of bold now, like it's kind of stronger than the way it was. So let me go back to my VS Code and leave it as the default behavior of one. Okay, I said by default is one. So if I save this and head over to my browser, this is what I'll get. So this is the default behavior. So that's that about table. Let's look at the next thing. So let me go back to VS Code. Now the next thing on my list will be let's talk about forms in HTML. HTML forms. Now what are HTML forms? HTML forms are used to collect user information. Now this is a kind of sensitive part of HTML and web development. Now, in most cases, you would not just want to build a website so that people will just come and look at it and just go. What you would want them to drop their information at some point. Maybe you want them to register to your website, sign up, or maybe sign up for an email, subscribe to your email. So you can only do that by the use of form because you would need something to collect their information. So form comes in a form tag. So let me do something like form. By the time I press enter, you can see that it's coming with this action attribute by default. Now what the action attribute specifies is that it specifies the file this form will be submitted to, maybe a PHP file or a Python file, okay, file or server. Now let me come down. So for now, we are not going to talk about its action attributes. We'll do that when we get to JavaScript. There are many ways of doing things. I can add a submit event to the form and grab information. So there are just different rules to take. Now let's talk about the things I need to know on this form. Now the first thing you should take note of is let me start with the label. Now what does label do? Label exists to show description of that particular field you want them to enter. So let me say for instance, I want them to enter their name. I can do something like this label for name. By the time I save, I can now come back and do something like input. If I press enter, this thing is coming as type of text by default. Now what the type specifies, it specifies the data type you want them to enter. Now this is to tell us that the data type we want here is a text. So if I go back to my browser, this is what I will get if I reload. Okay, so this thing is kind of so let me do something on my VS Code. Just hold on a second. So let me add BRO tag, BRO, or okay, let me use BRO. So if I save this come back to my browser. Okay, so okay, good. So now this is what I'm getting. I would like to add an HR tag to it. So let me head over to my VS Code. So let me do something like this, HR. So let's head over to VS Code. Let me show you something real quick. So if I say come to my VS Code now, let me explain something about this label and the input again real quick. Now, if you remember very well, I said something. I said the label is what gives description of what I'm to type inside this input field. So if you look at this thing, it's coming with the four attributes. Now, what does that four attribute do? For now, it doesn't do us much good. Now, in order for us to understand the four attribute, this four is used to link this label to this input so that it will be related to it directly. Now, there's something I would do. If I want to do that, I can add an ID attribute. Now, I can do something like ID for name. And I'll come here, I will say label for name. So if I save this and go over to my browser, this is what I will get. By the time I click on this, now you can see that my input is now focused. So that's what that guy is doing. So let me go back to my VS Code and show you something real quick. Now, it is important to know that label and input are inline by default. That's just the inline element. So if I decide to type again, all of them will just be placed side by side. So let me put a BRO tag so that to come back to this. Let me put a BRO tag. Now let me go back to the next tag. Let me say label for, if I want to take age, let me do something like this, age or numeric value. Let me say age or phone number also. Let me just use age in this case. Now what I will use to get this, I will say input and press enter. But in this case now, I won't use text, type of text. So what I will do, I can do type of number. So this is another data type. So if I save this and then head over to my browser, this is what I will get. I will get something like this. So by the time I click on it, I can't type to this guy because it doesn't accept text value. The only thing it accepts is numeric value. So if I say 1 to 3, you can see that it's working. So I could decide to increase, I could decide to decrease, and the rest of them. So take note that's a numeric value. Then let me head over to my VS Code again. It's something you should take note of. Now on VS Code, so let me say BRO and BRO again. Let me talk about the next data type real quick. So if I say label for, so let me come back then. What data type should I take? And let me add this real quick, the four attributes. So for number, sorry, for age, and this guy, let me see ID for age. I almost forgot this. Now there's also a name attribute. So let me do something like this, name attribute. The name attribute, what it specifies, it's just a way for helping server side languages like PHP and Python or sometimes JavaScript to get this information that passed into the URL. I won't go deep into that now because for now it will kind of confuse us. So I can also add the name attribute. So I can do something like name equal to name. So I can come here and do something like name equal to age. So we'll see that in a bit when we add the button to this form and try to submit it. So next on my list, we'll talk about the email data type. So I can do something like label for email. Then I will just do something like this email. Then come here, I'll do something like input. Then type of email. Then ID email, name email. Sorry, name email. Then let me add my BRO tags. So I'll say BRO and BRO. So if I save this and head over to my browser, this is what you should take. This is what you notice. Now on my browser, I'm getting this. So if I click on this and focus, click on this and focus. So for the email, I can add something, but if I okay, since there's no button here, we are not going to see the effect. So what the email does, the data type of email, is that it's trying to tell me that I can't enter anything that is not a valid email. So by the time I try to submit this form, you guys will see it real quick. So let's head over to VS Code. Let me add more stuff to the form. Or let me just come down here and do something like button so that you notice it real quick. So if I do something like button, submit, and save, head over to my browser and this is what I'm getting. Now, if I come back here and do something like this, me and I try to, so you can see that it's already giving us a suggestion. We should please include the art symbol. If I try to submit this, it won't work. This is a kind of validation, a form of validation. Now, prior to HTML5, the way of doing this is kind of really stressful. You have to write JavaScript code in order to get this done. But with the help of HTML5, things are made easy. Now that's for that. So if I do something, I can't submit it. It will tell me to validate, like I should add a valid email address and so on and so forth. Now, if I click on this submit button, what do you notice? You notice that the page is being reloaded. Then okay, look at this thing I said. This thing I talked about that time. The name, the age, and the email. These are all coming from the name attribute I added. But let me show you something real quick. Now, the default behavior of a button in a form or when a button is inside the form is to submit the form, thereby reloading the web page. That's why this page got reloaded when I submitted the form. So we'll talk about that shortly. Now, if you notice again, I was able to submit this form without filling information to it, like without adding information. So there are forms of validation I can do. So on VS Code, there is one basic validation that comes with HTML5. So I can come down here and add the required attributes. So you say required, come back here, I'll say required, then come back here, I'll say required. Sorry, required. Now if I save this, come over to my VS Code and try to submit this form. So what you tell me to please fill out this field. Now that's because I had the attribute of required. So it's a form of validation. It's very good. So if I should type this guy in and I try to submit, it will tell me to please fill out the next field. If I type this and then okay, sorry, this is if I type this and I try to submit, it will tell me to please fill out the next field. So by the time I type and try to submit again, it will tell me to put the art. So by the time I put my art, it will tell me to okay at something.com. So If I submit now, it will reload the page and everything. So so you can see this now. It's giving me the name equal to the rubbish I wrote here, the age and the email. So that's what the name attribute does. It's that grabbed on URLs and so. So let me go back to my VS Code. Let's talk about more data type. So this button, okay, I will leave it for now. So there are other data types I can take. I can do something like label, then I'll say password, label for password, then the description, I can do something like password. Let me come down again and do something like input. Then the type will be password. Then I can do something like ID equal to password. Then name equal to password. Um, of course, it will be required. So if I save this and let me add the BRO tag on that BRO tag. So if I come back to my browser, this is what I'm getting. So for the password, by the time I try to type something on the password, is kind of hiding it by default because password are sensitive information and you don't want others to see it by the time you are trying to enter a password in a public environment. So that's what this thing is doing. It's trying to validate it and hide the password for us. So with the help of JavaScript, you can decide to change it. If you go to some website, you see a little eye icon to show and hide password. So you can do that with the help of JavaScript. Now, if you remember very well, when I was trying to add the required attribute, you guys saw something. If I say RE, you see something like read only. Now, let me just point this out real quick. For now, this doesn't do us much good. Now, read only attribute, what it specifies that that field cannot be typed into it just to read alone. Hence, it's called the read only attribute. So, if I come back to my browser and okay, oh sorry, because of the password. So, if I try to type here, you can see that it's not working because I had that attribute of read only. So that's for that. So let me go back to my VS Code. Now VS Code, I want to remove this attribute. This is not a good application of this here. Now let me just explain. I think the best application of that is when you are doing something like you as an admin, you want to be able to update user information, but not all of the user information, maybe some few information and so on and so forth. I think I've used it in a case like that. So for now, let's just leave that aside. So let's talk about more attribute, more input and label. So if I say label, um, let's talk about date. So if I say label, I can do something like label for, let me see, DOB. And I can do something like DOB. So that's representing a date of birth. So I can say input, then I will take type of date. Now I can add these other fields, ID equal to DOB. So for now, let me just skip it. I think it's taking our time. So let me just leave it. You already know what it means. So if I save this and head over to my browser, this is what I'm getting. This for the DOB. You can see that it's bringing a date field. So if I come here, I can easily select my date and all of that. Now, because I didn't have the BRO tag, that's why this thing is like this. So if I head over to VS Code, this is something I can do. Let me just say BRO and BRO. So that's for this. So let's talk about the next one. Let me say label. Sorry. Let me say label. Then label for, let me see pic. I want them to be able to submit a file or a picture. I can do something like thumbnail also. So let me come back here and say input. Okay, there's a shortcut I can do. I can say input colon file. Okay, good. This is good. So it will just bring out everything. Okay, so let me do something like this. Now, for this file, what do I want to do? I want to be able to add an image or a file to this HTML form. So, if I go back to my browser, this is what this guy will give us on the browser. So, by the time I click on it, it will tell me it will open my images and the rest of them. So, I can be able to choose an image and click on submit. I don't know if my OBS was able to capture this. So, you can see now that this is showing HTML2.png. I've been able to select an image But let me show you something again. I can only select one image at a time. So if I try to select multiple images, it will just change to the last image I'm choosing. So let me just take this HTML7 image and open. So you can see that it has changed to HTML7. So let me head over to my VS Code and do some more stuff. So still on this image, I can do something like this label. Then let me see pics. Let me just put a plural form of it. So I do something like select files. Let me say you are creating a form and you want the user to be able to submit multiple images. So I can do something like input column file. If I press enter, so this is giving me type file and the rest of them. So I can do something like multiple attributes. So if I put this and I save, by the time I go back to my browser, this is what I'm getting. I can be able to select multiple images. So by the time I click on this, I can select multiple images. I don't know if my OBS is capturing this, but you see this real quick on the browser. So if I click on open, you can see on this first one, I'm getting no file. Okay, that's because I didn't choose any file. But on this one now, I'm seeing three files. So let me just choose one file for this previous one again. To know when I save it gets reload. So if you look at this one now, I've been able to choose a file, but it's a single file. But for this, I'm sorry. But for this case, I was able to select three files. So that's what I wanted to take note of. So let me head over to my VS Code and do something real quick. Now on VS Code, what did I want to do again? Okay, before I forget, let me add this BRO tag. BRO tag, then come down here, add the BRO tag. So if I save this, let me talk about select. Now, there are some cases whereby if you create a form and you want to take users information, you will not want them to type into the form field. Also, you would want to give them prefix data, things like if I'm selecting my country or state and so on and so forth. So now there are different ways of doing that. Or okay, let me just say something like this again. If I want to maybe select religion, gender, and the rest of them, or I want to click multiple categories of something, or I want to validate my form to show that okay, fine, I feed or feed. So there are things to do those stuff. So let's get to select radio and check boxes. So let me talk about this guy. So I think we've seen one example on my DOB. Now this guy is one of such kind of example. Like for the date now, I was not the one typing into it, so the thing is already pre-filled. All I need to do is just to select the data I need. So let's look at select and so on and so forth. So for select, now it comes with this name, ID, and so on and so forth. So I've already explained those stuff. Now, what you should take note of again is that it comes with options. So I can do something like option. Now for the first option, I can do let me say male. Then I can do something like option. I'll say female. If I save this, so let me just add a label to this. I'll say label. Let me do something like gender. Now if I save this, come over to my browser. Now you can see that on this gender field now I'm able to select I'm having male and female, so I can select any one of my choice. But this is not the best use of select, like I said. Now select is mostly used if I have let me see a great number of options to pick from. Let me say something like that. A great number of options to pick from. In that way, select will be valid. Now, I would not go into that and I won't type. It's kind of bored. It's kind of boring. So let me just show you something real quick on select again before I move further. There's something called the opt group. Okay, let me do something like this now. If I do something like this gender, or let me say I'm doing something like a category page or something. So I can group this first one. So design. Let me say something like design. Hmm? And for design, I can do something like Corel Draw. Then I can do something like Photoshop. Then let me do something like up group again, OPT group. And I can do something like languages. Then I will do option. Now for the first one, I will see PHP option again. I will see Python. That my languages. I will see option again. I will see JavaScript, of course. So if I save this, okay, I can add other things to it, but for now, let me just go with this guy. So if I come over to my VS Code, this is what you notice. Now, when I click on this, you can see, okay, seems like I messed up something. Come in, let's head over to VS Code and correct this. I'm not supposed to do it like this. I'm supposed to add a label to this. So let me just come back here and do something like this. See label. Let me see design. Then come back here, remove this guy. I don't need this. So I will cut this guy out of here and put it under. Sorry. So let me tab this in. Come back here, do something like this again. So for this, let me just remove this guy. Then paste this guy here. Then tab this again and give me a second, tab this again. So I'm supposed to come here and say something like label and I will see languages. So if I save this and this is what I will get. So by the time I click on this place, you can see the design, CorelDRAW, Photoshop, languages, PHP, Python, and JavaScript. Now, of course, I can't select this design and the languages. I can only select things under them. So this is one of the use of select and option. So let me go back to my VS Code and let's do something else again. So that's how select. So let me talk about other input feeds. Let's talk about the radio and checkbox. So let me go with the radio first. So for radio, I will start by saying label. Then after saying label, I can do something like religion. Jesus, I can't. I do something like religion. And I will see input, then of type radio. So if I do this, let me come back here. So I can add the label to this again. It's kind of weird, but just watch it out again. I'll do something like Christian. So let me just copy this guy. Let me add the BR first. Copy this guy. Sorry, the video is taking a long time. This will be the last part of it. Then I don't need this label again. So let me do something like Muslim. Sorry, let me do something like Muslim. Mm, so let me just copy this last guy and then paste it here real quick. So let me do something like let me do something like others. So if I save this and then go over to my browser, this is what you notice. I'm having these guys, but they are not doing anything. So if you look at this one, I can be able to select all of them at a time. So let's head over to VS Code and fix this up real quick. Now on VS Code, how do I do so that I can be able to select one at a time? Now is to come back to this input and give it a name. Now for the name, I'll give it a name of religion. Religion, I can't spell. I'll come back here, I'll do something like religion. Okay, sorry. Then for the last one, I'll do something like religion as well. So by the time I save this and go back to my browser, this is what I'm getting. So if I click on the first one, by the time I click on the second one, you can see that the first one is unselected. So that's what the radio is used for. So when I click on one, it should deselect the other one or it should unselect the other one. So let me head over to my VS Code and do something again. Now on VS Code, what will be the last thing we'll talk about? So let me just add the BRO tag here so that this guy will come down. So let's talk about the checkbox. Now the checkbox is almost the same as the radio, but the difference is that for checkbox, I can use it to select multiple things. So what I will do is that I will grab this code snippet again. I'll do something like categories here. I'll change this guy to categories. Then after saying category, I will change my type. So I'll change the type to let me say check box. By the time I save and go over to my browser, this is what I'm getting. So I can click on this guy, click on this one. I can click on multiple, uh, like I can click on all of them and submit them. So that's what the checkbox is used for. So that's for that. Let me show you guys real quick. So there's also an input of type color. Do I need to do this? So let me just do it. So I can do something like label. I'll see select color. Let me just see color, or let me see favorite color. So I do something like input column color. So by the time I save this, let me put a BRO, another BRO. See, by the time I head over to my browser, this is what I'm getting. So I can be able to select color. Let me say I want the user to be able to enter his favorite color. I can select this. Let me take this one. Okay, it's kind of dark. Okay, good. So I can select this and leave it there. So the select, I think it will submit the color value. So that's that about HTML form. So the last thing I would like to point out is the input. So let me come back to VS Code. Now, the last guy, if you look at this now, I'm seeing button. So whenever I button inside the form, like I said before, the default behavior is to submit the form by reloading the page. Then there's something I can also do. I can do something like input column submit. And this will also bring a button. Okay, this will bring a button as well. So if I come back to my browser, I can view this button. Okay, now this is a button, but I didn't add the value attribute to it. Value is what we show on the browser. So let me come back to VS Code and do something real quick. Now on VS Code, I can come here and do something like value submit. So if I save this guy, I can also give it a name attribute. The name is used to maybe grab it on the PHP or any server-side language or Python. So I can do something like submit as well. So if I save and I head over to my browser, this is what I will get. So you can see now it's also doing the same thing. So by the time I try to submit, of course it won't, because those fields are set to require. So by the time I fill them out, fill in my email, then add my password, then these ones are not required. So if I submit now, for instance, it will reload the page again. That's the default behavior of a button form. So guys, we're coming to the end of this video now. So when we did our anchor tag, we just we just linked our HTML page to an external file, Google or something. Now what I will do, I want to be able to navigate within pages of the website so that you get the understanding of that anchor tag very well. So let's head over to VS Code and let's create another file. So if I come back here, I can do something like let me create a file. So this is for creating a file. The second one is for folder. I didn't talk about this when we started the video. So let me do something like abot.html. So if I come inside this file, I can do something like this, my boilerplate, you know this already. So I can say anchor, then inside my anchor, I'll specify index.html. Now, let me just put the descriptions by saying go to home page. So if I save this, and I can come back to my index page. Let me just put this below the form. I can say anchor tag. And inside the anchor tag, I will say it should be about.html. Then I'll do something like go to about page. So if I save this and then go back to my browser, this is what I will get. I will get something like this. So this is the page I've been working on, the index page. So when I click on it, you can see that it will take me to the about page. So I can click on this page, it will take me back to the home page. So that's how to link between files. So if you notice something, I didn't specify the target attribute. The reason is because by default it is set to a target of self. Now this is a good practice when you are linking between pages of a website, like I said earlier. But if I'm linking to an external page, what I will use the target of blank. So let's head over to VS Code. Yeah, on my phone, I think there's something I can do, legend and fit set. Remember, HTML does not do styling, but there's a little styling I can do with the HTML. So let me just do something like let me do something like legend. Mm, okay, some fit set. Let me just cut this guy out, then put it under. How do I still remember? Okay, come in. Let me paste this guy. See, then for the legend, let me just say form feed. So if I save this, Let me head over to my browser. Let me see the results of this guy. So okay, good. This is what this guy is doing. So it's adding a little style. It's adding a little style for us. So now for that form feed, there's something I can do. I can decide to change the text I'm using. So if you notice, I didn't put any tag. So I can decide to change this to H1, then cut this guy, put it over here, and say head over to my browser. So this is what I'm getting. So form feeds, or you can use anything of your choice. So that's that about HTML. Let me come back to FR, to VS Code. So guys, before we round up the tutorial and go over to the project, let's talk about HTML5 semantic tag. Now, what are semantic tags? Like I said before, I said semantic tags are block level elements. Now they were introduced in HTML5. Now these tags, their name gives special meaning to how our website will look like. Now I won't talk much about this. I will just head over to W3 school and show us some code. So I think that will be easier. There's no need talking about that. So if I go to W3 school, I want you guys to see something like this. Now, HTML5 semantic tags, they can help us to lay out our website. So, like the name implies, it's giving a special meaning to the website. Now, this is the header. The header would always be your top section of your website. Then the nav bar to show, to give navigation and direction and everything. Then you may have a section, article, then aside, then footer. So these are the HTML5 semantic tags we have. I think I have this picture on my slide. So let me check my slide. All right, so this is a picture of my slide. So it's also the same thing from W3 school. So I think we should go with the one on W3 school. Now, so this is semantic tag. Now, what I will do is that when we start working on HTML projects, like real project, by the time we get to CSS, I will make use of these semantic tags and all of that. So for now, let's just stick to the ones we've learned, like, and build a project with the ones we've learned. So just to point out real quick, the HTML5 semantic tag, they all do the same thing as the div, but like I said, they're introducing HTML5 just to avoid the use of multiple divs. So that's what that. So let's head over to VS Code and start with our project. Now, for this project, what I'm going to do is that I will create a folder for the project so that all of the learning files will still be there, so that when I push the code to GitHub, we see everything. So this is what I'll do. I'll create a folder under this. I'll do something like HTML underscore project. So this is what I'll do. Then let me just comment. Let me say index.html. Now, if you notice, I'm always naming all my files index.html, index.html. So what's the use of this? Now, in most cases, whenever you are building a website, the index page is always seen as the home page. Whenever you deploy a website to any hosting company and so on and so forth, it will first search for an index page. That's what it will serve to the browser. So in most cases, the index page is always the home page or the landing page of your website. So for now, let me just do something like this, and then let's talk about some HTML stuff. Now, if you notice at first, I didn't talk about CSS and styling and all of those things. So if I want to add, I think we'll look at that when we get to CSS properly. If I want to add style to my HTML, I can do that on my head tag, or yes, I can do it on my head tag by doing this, by doing something like this style tag. And I'll leave it real quick. Now, I will just add a little style to this because I don't like the fact that my files will just start from the start of the page to the end of the page. I don't like it. So no, I'll do something like this for my title. I will say HTML project. So I'll save this guy. And for this, I will just target the body. So this is how to work with CSS. We'll get to that shortly. So let me just do something. I will say padding. Hmm? Then for padding, I'll do something like from top and bottom. I want it to be 0 pixel. Then from left and right, I want it to be let me see 10%. So I think this is okay. So that's for that. So I won't add any other style to it. So real quick, let's talk about so this is just a minimal project. I'm just doing this. Okay, so let me start with this. I will do something like H1. Let me just create a should I say blank website about me or about GB Media. Let me just put it that way using HTML alone. So I'll do something like this. Welcome to GB Media. So if I save this, and so in this case I won't be making use of the live server. Let me just copy part, then head over to my VS Code. Sorry, head over to my browser and then paste this guy. So this is what I will get. Welcome to GB Media. So because I added that padding, that's why I'm getting this guy from this place. If you look at our previous file, it's starting from the end of the page, which is really not nice. So let me just continue with this one. So what I'm getting, welcome to GB Media. So let me go over to my VS Code again and do some more stuff. So on VS Code, I want to add other things. So I'll see paragraph, of course. So remember, I said paragraph is used for text content alone. So what I will do with this paragraph, I can do something like, like you can see, I'm out of content. So this yellow rem if some comes in. So I'll do something like, hey, welcome to GB Media. So what I'll do, just a continuation. I'll just say lorem 200 and press enter. So by the time I save this, I'll get this text. Then I can come down. I can do something like div. Now inside this div, I want to add other text. Now let me just put a B arrow here, or no, H arrow. Then come down here inside this div. I can do something like P. Okay, no, not P. Let me just see H1, or let me see H2. I'll say about us. So if I save this, come down, I can see P. Then I'll say lorem 100. Sorry, lorem 100. Then press enter. By the time I save this, I'm getting 100 text. Then I can now add an image to this. So for the image, what I will do is that I will copy this image and I will paste it on this directory. So let me just paste it here. Then sorry. So if you remember, I said to in order to get an image, I'll use the img. Is that also? So the source attribute specifies where the image is coming from. So I'll say social.png. I can add an alt text. I can decide to do. Let me say GB media. So if I save this, then let me just so let me see and head over to my browser to see what I'm getting. So if I come back to my browser, notice that I need to reload. So this is what I'm getting. So just a quick hack. Now, if you look at this image, remember I said I'm not going to do any style, or but I'm going to do a little bit of styling. I would like this guy to come to the center of the page, and this image I would like it to be from the start to the end of this page. So let's go over to VS Code and do this real quick. Now VS Code, this is what I will do. I will add a width attribute to this. Now this is just within HTML. I'll add a width attribute of 100%. Now what this does is that it makes the image takes up the full width of its parent container. Now if I save this and go back to my browser, this is what I'll get. By the time I reload, you can see that the image is now 100% of this parent container. Now that's what this guy does. So like I said, I want to move this guy to the center of the web page. So I will use the style attribute. So what I need to do is to go back to VS Code. Now VS Code, this is what I will do. Just to come back here, I will do something like style, property column value. So let me start with text align of center. Then let me give it a background color of black and a text color of white. So if I save this and go back to my browser, this is what I will get on my browser by the time I reload. I'm coming. I think I messed up something. Let me go back to the VS Code again. Now I said I want to give it a background color of black. I made a mistake on my spelling, BLCK. So if I save this and head over to VS Code, sorry, my browser, by the time I reload, I'm not getting this. So I think it's better this way. So I could add a pad into it so that it will be nice. So let me just go back to VS Code again and do this real quick. These are just minimal styles. So let me just do something like this. Padding. Uh, you know the meaning of this now, but I will talk about the meaning when we get to CSS. So if I save, so it is it. Now, alright guys, so Now, in this about us section, this is what I'm getting. I just added this image and a little text there. So now what I want to do, I want to add a contact form so that people will add their email and name and subscribe to my newsletter. So let me do that again. So trying to do is to go back to my VS Code. Now on VS Code, I'll make use of that legend and fit set. So I think this text is too much. So let me just kind of reduce the text a bit. The text is too much. Um, Let me just reduce the text a bit. Okay, I think it's better this way. So under this div, so let me just add a form. Before the form, let me just do something like a table. Mm. Let me do something like contributor. So I'll say T head. Inside this T head, I'll say T arrow. I can do TD of serial number one. I'm just making use of all we learned during the tutorial. So I'll say TD again. I'll say name, and I'll say TD. I'll say email. If I save this, then I can come down here and do something like T body. Inside this T body, I can say T arrow, then TD. Oh, I made a mistake. So this is not supposed to be TD, it's supposed to be TH, if you remember very well. So let me just change this to TH. So this is how I'm getting TD now. So if I do this, I can do serial number one. Of course, first contributor is me, TD. In fact, the only contributor for now. I'll say Ijo, God bless. Then let me see TD. Sorry, TD is an EGOVWG Freeman 007 at gmail.com. If I save this, let me just copy this guy and paste it down twice. So second person will be let me just say Freeman, God bless. Yeah, let me say Freeman at gmail.com. So this will be serial number two. Then the third will be serial number three. Let me say Lancelot. I so much love Lancelot. Lance007 at gmail.com. So if I save this and go back to my browser, this is what I will get by the time I reload the page. So this is the table. So I would like to add those border attributes and add some styling. So I want it to be 100% in width. So what I need to do is just add my style attribute and say the width should be 100%. In fact, I don't think I need the style attribute. I can just do something like width equal to 100%. That will still work. So let me go back to my browser and view this. By the time I reload, so this is what I'm getting. I think it's better this way. So let's talk about the form. So what do I need to do with the form? So let me go back to VS Code. So for the form, let me start by adding inputs and label to the form. So all I need to do is just say label. Then I want this to be I don't want to add the font, those are the attributes. So let me say full name, then the input, then to have a type of text. Now there's something I didn't talk about when I was doing the HTML forms. Now there's an attribute called placeholder. I'm sorry I forgot about this. Now placeholder is used to give a description of what is supposed to be on that feed. Now in some cases you might decide to use placeholder, in some cases you might decide to use label. So for now I'll be making use of both. So let me just say placeholder. I'll say enter full name, and I can say EG, I'll say Jean Do. Then I'm going to put the BRO tag here real quick. Then BRO. All I need to do is to copy this, then paste it right here. Then now this will be a label for email. Let me summarize email. Then input type of email. Then the placeholder will be enter email. And I'll say eg example at gmail.com. example at gmail.com. So if I save this and go over to my browser, this is what I'll get. So let me reload this page. So this is what I'm getting. So for the form. Now I would like to add those okay, now look at the placeholder. If I click on this, immediately as I start typing it disappears. Then that's what that guy is doing. Now let me go back to my VS Code, and this is what I would like to do. I would like to add those legend and feed sets and all of this stuff. So let me just do something like feed set. I think this is what I did that time. Grab this guy, then put it down here, then save. Now do something like legends. Now for the legend, I want each one, and this one said subscribe to my newsletter. So that's enough. Then so let me just add an input of submit. I'll say input column submit. Then value should be submit. But let me just say subscribe. So if I save this and go over to my browser and reload the page, this is what we're going to see. So this is my form. So wow. So that's the form. So this is just a basic HTML page. Then before we end this video, let me just show you how to add icons. Now I didn't talk about icons. Now icons that are just a kind of pictorial representation of things. Now this is a picture, so I really can't get these icons from this picture. Now whenever you're working with HTML, there are different icon libraries you can use. So let me go over to another browser and search for Iconify CDN. So I'll say Iconify CDN. So if I type this, there are some useful tools I've installed on my Google Chrome that makes things easy for me. So with time, I think I'll share this information with you guys. So this is loading. So before it loads, let me go back to my HTML page and do some work over there. Now I don't just want to add these links there. I want to make them link to social media, so I can do something like so let me put a B arrow on that B arrow. Now before this guy, let me just do something like this B arrow and save. Now if I come down, I want something like a contact section or follow section. So this is what I will do. I will say div. I'll say h1. I'll say follow GB media. Social media. Okay, follow GB media on it sounds somehow. Follow GB media on social media. So let me start by doing this. I'll say anchor tag. So I'll put my icon in place of that guy. Then I'll say anchor tag again, anchor tag again, anchor tag. So for my let me just go and grab my links real quick. So I think for my Facebook, I think is https colon www.facebook.com/ the GB media. So all I need to do is just to copy this link and paste it right here on all of them. So let me just grab this link, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, Ctrl V, Ctrl V. I think YouTube uses something like art at the front, then Twitter does the same. So on Instagram, I can do something like www.instagram.com and www.twitter.com. Then for Facebook, I can do some. Sorry, for YouTube, I can do something like youtube.com. So that's for that. So let me head over to my browser. Let me check the website I'm opening if it's there. For now, you won't see anything because there's no stuff there, just the follow on social media. If I come here, I can define CDN. So let me just see. Grab CDN. Okay, I think this is CDN. So any of them work. So if I head over to my VS Code, so now for things like this, let me see. Is it a script tag? Okay, this is supposed to be a script tag. So what I will do something like this. I can do script. That's why JavaScript. And I'll say source. Then I'll paste this link there. So let me do it like this. Then let me head over to my browser. Now on the browser, I can now come back to this place and I'll say iconify.design. So let me just go back to Iconify and grab some icons real quick. So I'm sorry guys that this video is taking longer than expected. So we're almost done. So let me just search for icons. Then let me search for Facebook. Come in. Okay, okay, I'm supposed to click on icon, not there. Let me click on icons, then this is loading. Network is kind of slow. Let me just go check some stuff. Okay, was there? Okay, now good. So let me search for Facebook. Now this is how to use Iconify. It's one of the easiest icon library. There are different icon libraries to use from Bootstrap, Awesome, and the rest of them. But this one is really it's way easier. You just to grab the CD and then you can start making use of it. So for now, I think I searched for Facebook. Search. Okay, now I have different Facebook icons. So let me just go with this one. Let me just go with this one. Oh no, let me go with the square one. Okay, let me go with this one. So if I click on this place, I've copied the link. So just to go back to my VS Code and paste it right here. Where is it? Okay, this for Facebook. Let me paste it here. So then save. This is what I will do all through. Why is this thing like this? Okay, because of prettier. Though it's not an error, just because of prettier. It's trying to format it, then the tag is kind of breaking. So let me just do something again. So I'll go back to my browser and I'll search for let me close this guy. I don't need that one anymore. I will search for Instagram. And for Instagram, let me just go with this guy. Let me just go with this one. Okay, no, let me go with this one. Just to click on copy path, copy to clipboard, then head over to VS Code. Now VS Code, I'll paste it right here for Instagram. Now save. It's kind of boring. Then let me go back to my browser again. Now let me search for Twitter. So for Twitter, let me just pick this guy. I love this bit. The copy part. So rather copy to clipboard, then go over to my VS Code and paste it right here for Twitter. Then the last one for YouTube. So go over to your browser. Then search for my YouTube icon. I don't know if okay, then click on this guy, then copy, go over to VS Code and paste it right here. So I've gotten all four icons. Then all I need to do is just to go back to my browser. Then on my browser, just to reload the page, let me see if the icons are coming up. Boom, so they're coming up. Now if you look at this thing very well, you see that Facebook is bigger, followed by Instagram and the rest of them. So it's all about the size. So let me go back and show you how to edit this. So go back to your VS Code, then if you look at this now, the width of this guy is 16, the height is 16, so you can change it to anything of your choice. So let me just change this guy to, let me say, um 24. Then the width of this guy is bigger, so let me change it to 24. Then the width of this one, okay, it's already on 24. The width of this one is 128. Let me change it to 24. Sorry, let me change it to 24. So if I save this, head over to my browser and I reload the page. So this is what I'm getting. Boom. So all the icons are now of the same size and the rest of them. So if I click on this one, it will take me to Facebook. Take me to my Facebook page. So I'll just demo them real quick. So you can see this is the Facebook page loading right here. So okay, this is my Facebook page. So please, guys, I would advise you to follow me on Facebook and on all social media. So let me go back. If I click on Instagram, is trying to open my Instagram page. So this is the Instagram page. Please guys, do it to follow me. Then if I click on the Twitter, so this is me on Twitter. Please also do it to follow me on Twitter. So DGP Media, please do it to follow me. Then if I come back here, let me just try out the last one real quick. If I click on this, it will open up my YouTube page. So please guys, do it to follow me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Like and comment on the videos. It really helps a lot. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for staying with me. Um All of the codes will be pushed to my GitHub repository. So thanks very much. I'll see you on the next video.